Imagine this. Far out in the Atlantic Ocean, where the horizon never truly ends. There was no land in sight. No sound of civilization. Only water stretching endlessly in every direction. The sea moves slowly, like it is breathing. Deep, patient, and ancient. And in that silence, something appears in the distance. A ship. Not sinking, not burning, not broken. Just floating. As if it still belongs to this world. But something about it feels wrong. Terribly wrong. This ship is called the Mary Celeste, and to this day, it remains one of the most disturbing maritime mysteries ever recorded. Not because it was lost at sea, but because it was found, perfectly intact, and completely empty. We go back to the late 19th century, a time when the ocean was the main highway of the world. No airplanes, no satellites, no fast communication across continents. Only ships. Wood, rope, wind, and human courage against nature itself. Every voyage carried the same silent question. Will we return? Or disappear into the sea forever? In November 1872, the Mary Celeste left New York Harbor, bound for Genoa, Italy, carrying industrial alcohol as cargo, a normal shipment for that era, but still something that required careful handling in long ocean journeys. The ship was commanded by Captain Benjamin Spooner Briggs, a man known for discipline, responsibility, and deep religious conviction. He was not reckless. He did not ignore risk. He followed procedure strictly. On board with him were his wife Sarah Briggs, their young daughter, and 8 experienced crew members. At first glance, it was a normal voyage. No warnings, no strange signs, no sense that anything unusual was about to happen. The first days at sea were calm. The ocean behaved as expected. Winds were steady. Navigation was smooth. Daily logs showed nothing abnormal. No conflict, no damage, no storms. Just routine sailing across the Atlantic. But in maritime history, normality is often the calm before something unexplainable. Because on December 4th, 1872, another ship appeared in the same waters, a British vessel named Dei Gratia. At first, nothing seemed unusual. The sea often brings ships into each other's path by coincidence. But something quickly felt wrong, because in the distance, they saw another ship, moving strangely. No signals, no course correction, no visible activity on deck, no response to visual communication. It was just drifting, like a body without a soul. As they approached slowly, the strange feeling only grew stronger, until they finally recognized it. It was the Mary Celeste, a ship that should have been full of people. But there was no one on board. No captain, no crew, no family, no movement, no sound. Only the sea, and an empty vessel standing upright on it. The ship was not damaged. No sign of fire, no major structural failure, no evidence of a violent storm, no broken masts that would explain abandonment. Everything was still intact, as if the crew had simply stepped away. Recently. But that made no sense, because days had already passed. When the boarding party from De Gratia stepped onto the ship, they began to document something deeply unsettling. Personal belongings were still in place. Clothes were not hastily packed. Navigation instruments remained undisturbed. Even items belonging to Captain Briggs were untouched. There was no sign of theft, no struggle, no blood, no chaos. Everything was too orderly, too clean, too normal. For a ship that should have experienced an emergency evacuation. Then came the most important discovery. The lifeboat was missing. The only small vessel that could have been used to abandon the ship. And that immediately raised the central question of the entire mystery. If they left, why did they leave a seaworthy ship behind, in the middle of the open Atlantic, with no clear destination, no distress signal, and no confirmed reason? There was nowhere nearby they could realistically reach in a small lifeboat. No visible land route that made sense. No survival path that explained their disappearance. The ship was later taken to Gibraltar for investigation, and that is where the mystery deepened even further. Every part of the Mary Celeste was examined in detail. The hull, the deck, the cargo hold, the rigging, the navigation tools. And yet, no single explanation emerged. There was no evidence of piracy, no battle damage, no storm destruction. Nothing that could justify a full crew evacuation.
But there was one small detail that stood out. Water had entered the lower section of the ship. Not enough to sink it, but enough to raise concern if left unchecked. And in the 19th century, even a small leak could create panic if misjudged. This led to the first major theory, that the crew believed the ship was sinking and abandoned it quickly in the lifeboat, expecting it to go down shortly after. But it never did. The ship stayed afloat, stable, intact. This contradiction weakened the theory immediately. Another explanation emerged, something related to the alcohol cargo, suggesting fumes or pressure buildup in the hold, which might have caused fear of an explosion and triggered an emergency evacuation. But again, there was no fire damage, no explosion marks, no structural destruction. Nothing to support that scenario. Piracy was considered next, but nothing valuable was missing. No violence, no stolen cargo, no evidence of attack. Mutiny was also suggested. But once again, no blood, no damage, no signs of conflict between crew members. Everything pointed to something even more confusing. A ship abandoned without leaving the usual traces of disaster. And that is what makes the Mary Celeste different from almost every other maritime mystery. Because in most disasters, the sea leaves evidence behind. Storms break ships apart. Fire destroys structure. Violence leaves marks. Panic leaves chaos. But here, there was only absence. And that absence feels heavier than destruction itself.
Because it offers no explanation to hold on to, no final moment to reconstruct, no clear ending to imagine. As years passed, the story of the Mary Celeste grew beyond a simple investigation. It became a legend, a ghost ship of logic, a puzzle the ocean never answered. And every new theory that emerged only added more questions instead of solving them. Did the crew abandon ship in fear of something invisible? Did they encounter a phenomenon we still don't understand? Or did something happen aboard that left no trace in history at all? Even today, after more than a century,
the Mary Celeste remains unresolved, still drifting in human memory, not as a story of sinking, but as a story of disappearance without explanation. And perhaps the most disturbing thought of all is this: what if the answer was never meant to be found? What if the sea did not take them, but simply kept them? Somewhere beyond what history can recover,